Okay, Sabrina, Fatima, and Catalina, this is just for you guys. Um, and the reason I'm saying that is that this is a Saturday morning. I'm just trying to get this done before I go out and do some other things, and I'm just trying to help you keep moving or help us keep moving forward. So this may, you realize you have a speed control. You can speed this up if you want to, because I'm just gonna I'm not preparing it. I'm just opening a model and I'm going to talk about the everything I can think of that might be pertinent for you guys in terms of understanding the thermal analysis tool in Climate Studio. Right now, like I've said, I am thinking that we're going to start with thermal analysis and then move back to the site. Move thermal analysis first, then daylighting, glare, visibility, and at that point we would bring in the site context. And the reason for that is I can talk about in more detail, but I mentioned it in the little introduction video I just did, where I think it makes sense in terms of uh, the fact that we do have a stringent carbon reduction or carbon footprint metric that we have to meet now in New York City, and that's all about energy. And so it seems better to like in a vacuum play around with that to see how we get to that level and then bring in other factors. And I'm also, by the way, I'm not saying this is the way that you would do this in practice or even in the studio project. We're just talking about learning the tools. Okay, anyway, uh, I'm gonna just go through Climate Studio. I know that I think everybody's used it. I don't. Also, please don't be shy, because I may assume knowledge or that you don't have no idea what I'm talking about. Just gotta ask me questions. It's definitely not that I think you should know anything. I just don't know what you don't know. Um, okay, so Climate Studio. I'm obviously in Rhino. This is a 125 foot by 125 foot by three three-story box that I played around with for this initial model. Uh, when you open up Rhino with Climate Studio, this is the tool set. Remember, they're also I never use these, but there's also a where is it there? This set of tools here. If you'd rather do it that way. Um, Anywho, so the first thing you do is define your climate data. You do that by clicking here on this folder. There's a lot of climate data that comes packaged with Climate Studio. You can also download your own. I probably have some. This is going to a different place where I put. Oh, this is actually the roaming. This might be the same set of data. I don't know, but you can. There's a various sites. The EPA, Energy Plus has a site where you can get data. You probably already know about that. But anyway, I've just been using LaGuardia, New York. Once you once you select it, then it's propagates for anything you do in with the model. It has this nice summary section. By the way, and I may be wrong about this because I'm really impressed with these people at MIT. The guy who started this is a physicist who's also got a PhD in architecture. So he's one of these kind of monster people who, has a lot of knowledge. So I'm always a little bit shy to think that they could be, that there's mistakes in here, but it's also just this, just this kind of academic thing that they've turned into a business now. But I don't think that there's anybody like really minding the store. So I'm pretty sure that, for example, the heating degree days and cooling degree days in the IP calculations are wrong. What am I talking about there? Well, you can quickly change between metric and inch pound system. Click this button, it changes it throughout the model. And all I'm saying is that there's now two places I found things that I'm pretty sure are wrong in terms of their conversion. These are Europeans who I'm sure joke about our stupid IP system, and so they kind of are just having to genuflect toward the U.S. by even including IP, and so they may just not be focusing on it. So there may be some mistakes, and that's why, that's a big lesson as professionals you start learning is that it's up to you, even if it's what it said in Climate Studio. No, we have to be more rigorous in that. Remember, you can turn on and off the compass. I would always leave the compass on. Um, okay, anyway, you can change the compass size here, the display size. So we've got our climate data in, and now the basic. Another thing I should say about Climate Studio is that it started out in Grasshopper, and they have a lot of Grasshopper workflows. We'll use some of them. I'm not sure if I'll, I'll try to organize this where I just do that completely separately. Um, but just realize that this is really this interface here really is Grasshopper based, and they've just converted some of the things that they did in Grasshopper into a GUI that's in the basic Rhino interface, which is pretty cool. Um, anyway, so we have a bunch of workflows that we can access that are canned workflows, and then our results will show up here when we run them. And these are obviously in this model, I've run a ton of them, and I'll talk about those. Um, so let's just go over the basic layout here. We have the initial thing is site analysis, which makes sense. This is where you can turn on the sun and just visually. This is like what you do in SketchUp or other um, interfaces that you may have used before. And I think you've used this one. I'm just saying this, like I said, I don't know what your background is with Climate Studio. So this is the um, basic solar interface. This the cool thing is what we're going to do is get beyond this now. We're not going to say, well, it's we're trying to shade this facade over here with some overhangs, and look, there's less sun hitting it. We can determine exactly how much less sun or more, and we can get a complete BTU output, or energy usage based on our decisions, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so you have this simple interface that you can manually change. You can adjust the size of the, let's see, oh, here it is, of the solar window. Remember, this is called a solar window. So it's a handy tool, but really more for visualization in my mind than for actually modeling stuff. But you can go back and forth at any point. So I can be looking at, a model that I ran in some other workflow, and then I can turn, or as I'm doing that and making some design decision of what I want to include the model, I can then turn this on and check it out. So it's a cool thing to have to remember this there. Similarly, there's a windrows that you can also change the size of. And the coolest thing about this is that you can adjust, like you can create a winter, a heating season based on. You can say, okay, what's my heating season? You can say, what are the heating degree days? Maybe this would be a place where you'd go look in Climate Consultant to understand this more. Because let me show you here. There is actually a diagonal chart like from. So you could look here. I'm blasting through this. If I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to show you it's here. My point being is that you have access to a lot of data, visual data that you can use even right at this point. For example, if I want to determine what I want to show a heating season windrows and a cooling season windrows, which by the way is kind of the whole point, right? If you don't divide it into those two seasons, then the wind has different functions, right? In the cooling, we want to block it, and in the heating, we want to. Oh, sorry, in the cooling, we want to let it come through the building if we can, or if that's our strategy. And if we're heating, we want to block it. Put it most simply. And so we can attenuate our. So let me just do a quick. These can go across each other. So here, let's just say this is my heating season. I have to turn it on and off. Um, you get it to update. So again, like if I change this down here, it's showing up, but not until I turn it on and off in the main window while I see the effects. So these are things that are more visual. I think that this is another really good reason why we do this kind of modeling. I've seen so many students talking about wind And yeah, sure, it's a great thing and very straightforward to think about. But let's say we have a building here, you know, um, and maybe I've got this all around, and that's going to completely change this wind profile, right? So the wind is the hardest thing to model. It's something where we really, and so this visual interpretation of the wind is not that helpful. We would need to do a much more complicated, like CFD analysis, which is just a different way of analyzing air movement. So what we're going to be able to do with this kind of modeling is get beyond this sort of visually coded approach. We've also got a psychometric chart here. It's not as nice as the one in Climate Consultant, but it's here. And we have the other charts that you may be used to from that interface if you've used Climate Consultant. Okay, turn off the windows. And then we have some daylighting, different daylighting workflows that we'll get into later. Uh, Daylighting, glare, and view are all kind of fight one another, or can. So those are really interesting to try to. It's great to have a modeling tool. We can do those all quickly, do different analyses at the same time, or in quick succession. So in my approach right now is that we will do those after we do the thermal analysis. So um, let's move on to the thermal analysis. And I think I'm going to stop now so I can have these in just little chunks. So that was the sort of basic introduction to the Climate Studio interface. Let me think if there's anything else I should say about it. Yeah, there is. So if I go back to, you just got to get used to remembering, oh yeah, I got to go back and switch to site analysis, and then these tools show up. A cool thing about this is that you see, so for example, if I were doing a point in time illuminance model, I would have to assign some materials to whatever it was I wanted to be illuminated. I might add lights, but then if I go to let's say a daylight availability, I've already assigned those materials, right, in the previous model. So these inputs are consistent throughout the different workflows. So once you kind of set up a model, it can go very quickly that you're moving between them, which is the whole advantage of this. They also brag about they have some kind of approach to the math behind this, the algorithm that produces the results, that it sort of estimates, not sort of, it estimates quickly the output and gives that to you as it's running the simulation. So you quickly see something that's almost completely accurate, and then it'll keep running and give you the final result. But you can almost instantly, usually, start to see the results of your model. And the longest one I've ever run in any of these is 30 seconds, I guess, or something like that. So they're very quick. Um, and then if with any of these, let's see, do I have? You can always access the outputs. So like for example, if I'm here and I wanted to print this graph down here, I can hit print and I can adjust it. I can change the font. I mean the size of the text, etc. Um, Whatever, and I can export it as a PDF. And there's when we get into other more detailed analyses, you can export CSV files. Um, so just realize that's another really important thing about this is that the data is available, but and you can export it and use it in other to do other things with it.